It was a muggy August evening in Atlanta, the kind of night where the air stuck to your skin and the cicadas screamed from the trees. DeMonchus Cole sat on the edge of his narrow bed in the county jail, his head lowered, his hands clasped together. His trial had been over weeks ago, the guilty verdict stamped on him like a brand. Murder in the first degree. Life without parole. The problem was DeMonchus hadn't killed anyone. His mind replayed that night again and again. Zeke Turner, the local hotshot, the man everyone feared because of his money and influence, had been found dead behind his sprawling mansion. The police had rushed to pin it on someone, and DeMonchus, a poor mechanic with no family name to protect him, had been the perfect scapegoat. Evidence was thin, circumstantial, but the jury had believed what the prosecution fed them. Now he was rotting in a cell. But something happened that shifted everything. Detective Harris, the same man who had testified against him, walked into the jail one afternoon. His face was pale, his jaw tense. He motioned for DeMonchus to stand. "There's been a development," Harris said quietly. Within hours, DeMonchus was sitting in a stark interrogation room. A television was wheeled in. A news report flickered on the screen. The anchor's voice trembled as she spoke. "Breaking news out of Buckhead this evening. Zeke Turner, the wealthy real estate mogul previously believed to have been murdered 3 months ago, has been confirmed dead tonight in what appears to be a fatal fall from the balcony of his penthouse suite. Details remain unclear, but investigators are reopening the case." DeMonchus's head snapped up. His heart pounded. If Zeke had just died tonight, who had been lying in the morgue months ago? Who had the police buried? Who had he been convicted of killing? The room tilted. Harris's eyes flicked to him, a mix of guilt and unease written across his face. "Looks like someone played us all," the detective muttered. For the first time in months, DeMonchus felt a flicker of hope. The next days unraveled like a slow, brutal storm. The city buzzed with whispers. Zeke's so-called death months ago had been staged. A body, charred and disfigured from a fire on his property, had been misidentified as his. Authorities admitted their mistake. The victim had never been Zeke. And now, with Zeke actually dead, thrown from his own penthouse balcony, everything came crashing into chaos. Detectives started digging, and secrets spilled like blood from an open wound. Zeke Turner had enemies everywhere, business rivals he had cheated, women he had betrayed, associates he had blackmailed. His empire had been built not just on money but on intimidation, lies, and ruin. But the real shock came when they traced the evidence from that first death. The charred body wasn't just a random misidentification. It belonged to a man named Harold Briggs, a drifter who had disappeared weeks before. And tucked inside his pockets were items that belonged to DeMonchus, items that had conveniently surfaced at the crime scene, damning him in court. DeMonchus realized, with a cold chill, that he had been set up deliberately. The question was, by whom? Investigators pulled phone records, surveillance tapes, financial logs. A name kept surfacing: Lydia Monroe. She was Zeke's fiancée, a glamorous woman known for her beauty and charm, but also for her relentless ambition. She had been the one to testify that she saw DeMonchus arguing with Zeke days before the supposed murder. She had been the one to identify Zeke's ring on the burnt corpse's hand. And now, after Zeke's actual death, Lydia had vanished. DeMonchus followed news with growing intensity, each headline dragging him deeper into a puzzle he hadn't asked to be part of. From his cell, he pieced it together. Lydia and Zeke had planned the first disappearance. They had sacrificed Harold Briggs as a decoy, planted DeMonchus's belongings, and disappeared into the night with Zeke's fortune hidden offshore. Lydia got her alibi. Zeke got his freedom. And DeMonchus got the blame. But something had gone wrong. Tonight proved it. Zeke had come back, or had been lured back, and someone had finished the job for real. The DA, under pressure from the media, ordered a review of DeMonchus's conviction. He was granted a temporary release as investigators scrambled to contain the fallout. For the first time in months, he walked free, though with an ankle monitor strapped tight around his leg. The air smelled sweeter outside, but paranoia gripped him. That's when the calls started. An untraceable number. A woman's voice, silky and trembling. "DeMonchus," it whispered. "They're going to kill me next." You have to believe me. It was never supposed to be like this. It was Lydia. The call cut out before he could respond. 2 nights later, Lydia's body washed up near the Chattahoochee River. The papers called it a suicide. The police weren't so sure. And Demontius? He knew enough by now to recognize a noose and being tied. Whoever had orchestrated this nightmare was still out there, watching, pulling strings. He barely slept. Every shadow on the street felt like a threat. He replayed Zeke's smirk in his mind, the arrogance of a man who thought he could cheat death, cheat justice, cheat everyone. Maybe he had, until the very end. But then something unexpected happened. Detective Harris showed up again, this time at Demontius's small rented room. He held a thick file, his eyes bloodshot from too many sleepless nights. "You were right," Harris said, dropping the file on the table. Photos spilled out, bank statements, offshore accounts, surveillance shots of men in dark suits. This goes deeper than Zeke. He wasn't just a corrupt businessman. He was laundering money for people a lot bigger than him. The night he died, someone made sure he wouldn't talk. Lydia was just collateral damage. Demontius stared at the papers, bile rising in his throat. "So what happens to me now?" Harris's gaze softened. "We clear your name. We burn the verdict that never should have existed." But Demontius, he hesitated, then leaned closer. "You need to understand. Whoever came for Zeke, they won't hesitate to come for you if they think you know too much." That night, Demontius sat by the window, watching headlights flicker down the street. Freedom had never felt so fragile. He thought about the months stolen from him, the lies that had nearly buried him, the faces of those who had used him as a pawn. Somewhere in the darkness, powerful men were still pulling the strings. But for the first time in his life, Demontius felt something stronger than fear. He felt resolve. He had been their scapegoat, their distraction, their easy target. But now he was a free man with nothing left to lose. And if they thought they could silence him the way they silenced Zeke and Lydia, they had made their final mistake. Because Demontius Cole was done being a victim. And the truth, the whole rotten, dangerous, bloody truth, was about to come crashing down.